We could talk about this thing that you sent to me.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. But it's funny because the more that I read it, the more confused I got about it.
Really?
Yeah.
What is it?
It's called the Abrahamic something. It's in Abu Dhabi. It's this giant. There's like a Christianity, like a church on one side, and then an Islamic. Is it a mosque? Mosque on the other, and it's like the Pope backed that, and then the Islamic leader backed that. But then, as I read, it's like, oh well, this Islamic guy believes that anybody that isn't Islam should be killed. So I'm like, okay, but it's called one religion. Yeah, this is it.
So, you guys just want to do this? You just want to roll into it?
I thought we were already live.
All right. Well, let's start with this. So, all right, one world religion headquarters set to open next year. All right. So, who wants everyone to die?
So here, scroll down a little bit. I should have done a little bit more research than I did instead of just glancing through. Scroll past that picture. Okay, hold on. Okay, in December 2020, the United Nations passed an anti-blasphemy law. Oh, right here. To add to the okay, let me just read these first two paragraphs. They're small. They're usually not enforced teaching that Jesus is God, considered to be an act of insulting Allah or the Prophet Muhammad, and offenders can be subject to imprisonment for 5 or more years, fined from 250,000, so 68 grand, or 2 million dirhams.
Where is this?
And Christians may be deported. Well, this place is in Abu Dhabi. And then it says to add the confusion, bringing or understanding intolerances, Sunni Muslim leader, I don't know if
Sheikh Amin Al-Taib,
who is widely touted as a moderate Muslim, strongly believes that Muslims who convert from Islam to any other religion, including Christianity, should be killed.
I mean,
but
that's not unreasonable.
Huh?
Yeah, but who is that guy in relation to this?
So
is that just like
I think he would be like
tidbit? No.
Well, guys, I'm not really qualified to speak on this subject, but I do think if you leave the religion, you should be killed.
Yeah.
Also, I want to tell you about my economic policy.
Yeah, like is he the leader?
Well,
of this,
so
or?
yeah, so if you scroll up, Chris, the picture. So this whole thing is in Abu Dhabi. Is building this year. It's called One Religion, and I was under the impression it's maybe this is right to bring people closer, and kind of eliminate the ignorance between everybody and their religious beliefs, and so people can understand each other better. So you can see it's like in collaboration with the Pope, the Christianity side, and then the other side is that guy that we just pronounced his name,
the Sunni Muslim leader.
Yep.
And so this HQ is being built by the Pope and this Muslim leader to try and bring everybody together, but they're saying that this Muslim leader wants to kill everybody.
Not kill everybody. Yeah. I think he wants to. I think he's saying that it's reasonable that if you leave Islam, that you should be killed.
Yeah. So here's what I don't get is that maybe we should read through the whole thing, but it sounds like maybe he's kind of getting away from that and saying, okay, let's all just try to come together. And,
Well, I mean, generally think that they should be killed, but now that we have this building,
we're going to lay off it for a little bit.
Interesting idea, though. I mean,
yeah,
trying to bring everybody together. So, but now they're saying that one religion. Are they trying to like rewrite, everything, kind of bring it into one place? Or
I don't
just
think so. I think it's like where
you can just practice any religion in a safe environment.
I think
with
that's
everybody.
it.
Yeah.
I think it's saying one world religion headquarters, kind of like how maybe, I don't know, like you know how they normally have like Jerusalem is like the holy city for all these different religions, but everything's under contention. Maybe this is an attempt to build something new, so that way maybe you can get away from like the historical significance of some of this stuff. But I don't know if it makes the issues from Jerusalem go away. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I just thought it was interesting because I know we talk about like so much hate and all this stuff that you see in the world, and negativity, and then this comes out. I actually saw this on the On It guy. He had posted something like this on Instagram.
Oh, really?
On the article, yeah.
Aubrey Marcus?
Yeah, Aubrey Marcus.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I watched some, like Vimeo has all these like documentaries and stuff on it. I was watching some documentary that was about like the Israeli soldiers that patrol this area that's like kind of Palestine, but it's kind of Israel. Like I feel like Israel and all those places are like loaded with like territories like this. It's just like thousands of years of people like not getting along, being in different wars, kind of hating each other. And it's like,
Yeah.
it seems like they all do such shitty things to each other. Like I mean, people are shooting rockets at Israel every day. So I would be like fucking pissed and on the defense too. I probably wouldn't be super nice to anybody that's shooting rockets at me, but like, no, it seems like nobody over in the Middle East in that conflict is doing like the right thing. Like nobody, it doesn't seem like many people are like working towards like peace necessarily. It seems like both sides are like, hey, fuck you, I hate you. Like, oh, well, we hate you too. That's perfect. Like, I don't know. That's just kind of the impression that I get from it. I don't know how that stuff ends though.
I think it's tough to get a really good read on exactly what's going on in these areas, and there's such a long history of conflict in these areas, and so I think it's pretty tough to paint a picture of exactly, does everybody hate each other? Who's the aggressor, who's on the defense, and I think it's pretty tough to make that call.
It is hard because, and there's like a lot of propaganda around all of this because like the U.S. supports Israel like big time monetarily, but then like we are kind of like allied with them militarily, but some people hate Israel. Some people hate like the Palestinians. Like
I think just like anything nowadays, it's so like polarizing where it's like you got to be on one side or the other, right? So it's like, if you're pro-Israel, that must mean that you're anti-Palestine, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think that's, it's just not the right way to look at things. And it's not, as we see with a lot of the stuff going on, it's not, nothing ever gets solved that way, right? Because you're always trying to, there's a winner and a loser in every deal when you try and work deals out that way.
Yeah.
When were the Crusades? I don't even know what year. Would that be in like the
1200s,
I think, yeah.
I mean, I feel like it's pretty much been going on since then with them, right?
It might have been from before because like the Muslim rulers took over huge like areas like all over the world. Like they were in Spain, they were like pretty far. Like in Spanish, like I think "Oh Allah" is like thank God, and like the root of the word is Allah. It comes from when they were like ruled under Muslim rule, like maybe 1,000 years ago or many hundreds of years ago.
Yeah.
But even in Indonesia, we went to Bali, and Indonesia is like the top piece of it is like connected to mainland Asia, and then it's like a hook down of islands, and like the Muslims took over a bunch of the islands up until Bali was pretty much the first one that was mostly Hindu, and everything south of there is Hindu because in their trade routes with coffee, with all this other stuff, like they took over all these areas. So it was like, I mean, there's definitely been times where like Muslim rulers ruled like a lot of the world. I don't know. I think it's like, seems like it's like several 1,000-year ebb and flow with some of this stuff. Is interesting.
Is Hinduism, is that the oldest religion? Or is it Judaism?
I think socialism's the oldest religion.
Ah, yes. You're 100% correct.
Fuck, dude. So,
Yep, this is what I brought for show and tell.
What a informed, well-educated discussion we had there.
Yeah, this is probably the most. Yeah, you guys, I know a lot more stuff about this than I am. I just thought this was cool, just for the
I'm not
positivity.
When it comes to religion, I do not know all that much about it.
no, you're like the most religious person that I know.
Something like that.
I would say so.
Oh, look,
What?
miniseries. Oh, never mind. I thought they were like little, like mini games we could do. About
Mini series podcast. Mao's Little Red Book. Play this Mao's
no.
Little Red Book mini game.
Oh, that's not even. Those are ads, aren't they?
You will say all of the
Wow.
information in this book correctly, or you will disappear.
Forever.
So, one other thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about is I wanted to get your thoughts on this, and I'm not sure the best way of going about doing this, but like I've been thinking the past, I don't know, week or so about like determination and people that are determined and like focused. Like, do you guys at least know people or have seen like shows where people are like relentless and determined? I mean, do you guys like have that in you? Like, do you feel that way, or is that not even something that you think about?
Dude, I might have like a little spark of something. Like I'll get on. I'll be like all pumped about like some new project I'm going to start or some hobby that I'm going to do, and I go so full throttle, and I burn out within a week. And you guys know who David Goggins is.
Yeah.
Dude, I started listening to him, and I'm like, oh, I could take on the world, and it just gets me so amped up. But then I can't continue to like with you with this podcast and like starting your own business. Like, you've been doing it for a while. Like that would be more determination. Like I want to be more like consistent with it. So I'm nowhere. I wouldn't say that like I have drive and stuff, but the consistency and to like have the motivation, determination, I fizzle out pretty quick.
So why do you think that you fizzle out when you like you get fucking amped up about something? Like, why do you actually like fizzle out with what you're doing?
I think it's because I get bored or I hit. Like I was listening to that podcast you sent me to that 8-minute
Make art, not content.
Yeah, and it's like I have all these good ideas, and you start running with them, and you start doing these things, and then the second like you hit a wall, you start doubting yourself right away. And you're like, oh, I thought this was a cool idea, but I'm seeing that maybe it's not. And then you kind of try to push past that wall, and then you hit another wall, and you're like, all right, this probably isn't meant to be. I'm gonna go like onto something else.
Yeah.
I think that's like, if I'm being honest, like I think that's what kind of drives me into a different direction. It's
Yeah.
hard to keep it after you get.
I agree. It's like I have the same thing where you basically run into something and then you're like, maybe this isn't like what I thought or what I wanted. I don't know. Is this even something that crosses your mind? Like,
No.
yeah.
It's probably because you are determined. It's probably because you have this.
I think, like for me, and I've said this before, is like, I don't set these. I've never been a person that sets these goals, right? I'm not like, hey, by 2022, I want to, be a new me or whatever. And that's, I think that's something that people, they use these goals and milestones and are constantly kind of like, measuring, okay, where am I at today versus like, where do I want to go? And for me, it's more about just, waking up every day and doing, knowing that, okay, whatever I do today seems pretty important and seems like the right thing to do. And knowing that even if that doesn't hit, like, hey, I'm going to go do this, video, or I'm going to start, calling this group of people or, whatever it may be, knowing that like, okay, it's just moving in the general direction that you want things to go. And so I don't really worry about, hey, I'm going to stick with this and like, really see it through. Just knowing like, hey, I'm going to try that. I'm going to jump into something. I'm going to see, if it works. And if it doesn't, it's not a big deal. Knowing that, just because also I think the other thing too, like if we're talking about business or whatever, is just because you try something and stop it doesn't mean that it's a failure. At least you experience what that was like, and you could come back and like tap into that in the future,
So like, what do you think the thing is? So how do you look at stuff and decide like what's important or what you think is going to move the needle for that day or those couple of days? Like, how do you decide that?
I think you have to prioritize on, and you have to prioritize with kind of like, it's kind of weird to say, but like short term and long term in mind, and really deprioritize the things that aren't really going to matter all that much.
So like if you don't have these long-term goals and stuff like that, if you don't think about it in that way, how do you prioritize? Like, what's the underlying thing that makes you prioritize something over another thing and keep moving forward?
I think, you have kind of general time guidelines, right? So, knowing like, hey, if we're going to prepare for an event, or if we've set a launch date for a product, or, you have a fishing trip that's coming up or whatever it may be, you just kind of got to figure out, okay, like what are the most important things to have a successful mission, whatever it may be. And the smaller stuff, it kind of falls into place. And sometimes you don't get the smaller stuff done. But if you spend too much time kind of like checking all of those boxes, I think you could be potentially wasting your time. And for me, I kind of, I wing a lot of stuff. Like I'll show up for a freaking, like a press conference or something. And I'm just like, okay, I'm going to get up there and just do it. But knowing like, hey, in general, I've done the work to kind of like know what I'm going to talk about and present or whatever. I'm not going to take the time to like, check off all these tiny boxes, because I don't think that that's going to pay off, in the future.
Yeah.
And so some people will look at that as like either being lazy or, not organized. But for me, it's like if I spent a lot of time worrying about those little things, I don't think you would end up getting all the big things done.
So for you, so with this stuff, it's like you kind of identify the actual like bigger, more important things, and that, it seems like just like watching you work and the way that you've moved this stuff forward, it seems like you just kind of know the general direction that you're going. Like, is that?
Yeah, for the most part, it's like, I know in general, what am I good at, right? Along the way, I want to get better at things that I'm not good at. So like I'm always learning about new stuff, and I'll like kind of like touch on the details and stuff like that. But I'm never really like worried about, hey, what don't I know? Or spending a lot of time kind of focusing on, hey, I haven't spent a lot of time in like accounting or finance. Yeah, could I take the time to do that? Sure. Like, could it make me better? Maybe, but it's not worth my time to do that, because the strengths that I have really outweigh the weaknesses that I have in certain areas. And I don't think about that on a daily basis. It's more of just like what I'm drawn to. It's not like I'm laying out a plan on what I'm going to focus on.
Do you think that that train of thought came from experience, or have you always kind of been in the same?
I think I've always kind of like, I don't know, I've always kind of done that. Like I've always, say, hey, that looks cool, or I like doing that. Like I'm just gonna dive into it and do it.
I feel like you've always had that, because I have what you said. Like I have the opposite. So you say, well, I don't think about the things that like I don't really know about. Not like, oh, I just don't think about them. It's not like in a stupid way. It's just like, oh, I know I'm good at these things. Like I can get better, which I feel like you do get progressively better at stuff. Like when you start out the podcast,
Yeah.
like you've gotten a lot better at the podcast, like interviewing people, and even like the social media clips that you put out, like they get like a little bit better each time you put them out. So for me, the way that I look at it is like I definitely have imposter syndrome, where I look at stuff and go like, look at all this shit that I don't know about. Like, oh, I don't know about in-depth transition effects in the video editing software, or like I don't know really when I put a noise gate on the Rodecaster, like what the threshold should be. Whereas 99.9% of people out there don't even know probably that this exists, let alone what a threshold is. And I just look at that 0.1% and I'm like, fuck, these people know so much more than me, or blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't know. I default to that.
Right.
That's why I don't know. That's why I look at some of this stuff and I try and figure out ways that I can emulate the way that you think. Because it seems like you don't get thrown off course all that much. Like,
no. Because you kind of like in general, like I said, kind of generally know the direction that I'm going and what I want to do, and like know that I'm good at certain things. I know that there's plenty of people out there that are better than me, but that doesn't bother me either, because why would I stress over these little aspects when I'll do just fine? In a lot of cases, it doesn't necessarily matter. Yeah. Now, and I think part of that is just like kind of personality traits, and some people are more of like perfectionists, or like they really like want to embrace themselves, like really like know everything about every topic. And I've just never been like that, where even like with fishing, which is like my number one hobby right now, is like I am constantly getting better at fishing. So I do a lot of fly fishing, and so it's and around this area in Southwest Florida, a lot of the stuff that we do, it's all shallow water fishing. It's constantly, the conditions are constantly changing. So you have wind, tides, water temperature, time of year. There's all different areas that you're looking at.
Yeah. Bunch of different factors.
There's so many different variables. Okay. Then you have the equipment, right? So you have your boat, you have your different fly rods, your reels, your line, and your flies, right? And so for me, it's like I've been doing this for a few years now, and I just knew if I go out there and every time I fish, I'm always like, hey, I'm going to go check out a different area, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to use this type of fly. Like some people, when they get into it, they really like, they're constantly just looking at maps and looking at everything and saying like, oh, well, should I use, medium weight versus, extra small weight, or should I use this line or that line? And you could spend a lot of time doing that. And in some cases, some people get really good by doing that. But for me, it's more about like, okay, we're just going to get on the boat and we're going to go check out some areas. And now it's to the point where like, a couple of years ago, we had plenty of days where we'd go out and wouldn't catch any fish. And now like we go out and we do pretty well. And And it's just from like that experience and just going, not being like having a textbook and a journal and like, you know, getting really scientific with it. And so I think that that's more what I'm about. It's just like going and doing, and you kind of figure out things along the way, not like trying to figure out everything up front before you get out on the boat.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like somewhere along the lines, like a lot of us, me, I like you get bogged down with technicalities, and then you're like, oh, I need to do this in order to learn the bigger picture. Like you hear people that want to deconstruct on how to do something, and you're like, all right, if I get good at all these things, then overall I'll be good at them. I think we like have lost that, because I think generations ago, I think it was like that's kind of what you've explained. It's like, hey, I'm just gonna go out, I'm gonna fly fish, and when these things come up, then I'll cross that bridge when they happen. And now I think people are like want to be over prepared for everything, and yeah, it sounds like you're talking about just like being confident in what you're gonna do, and then not having to break everything down. Yeah, it's interesting.
So like okay, because with that, I agree with the overall sentiment of just like going and doing, and you kind of learn on the fly, because that's how I learn.
Pun intended.
That's how I learn most of the stuff, like with music. Some of the stuff that I like to do, it does get somewhat technical and in-depth, like the music stuff. So for me, it was very much like, go, do it as much as possible. I just kept running into so many roadblocks that I like fundamentally didn't understand. Like I didn't understand how to make any of the volume loud enough. And then I would make it so loud that it would like blow out the track. And I just kind of got to that point where I was getting too frustrated. So I ended up doing like an online course to learn about it. But after doing those like basic fundamentals, like going in, now I still have to do it all the time in order to stay sharp with it, because like if you don't take that stuff and apply it, like it goes away. Mm-hmm. I don't know, but like getting back to the determination thing, like it for me, do you have like not like mood swings, like where you're like emotional all the time. But like for me, I'm not regularly like generally like this kind of emotion, or like I feel this way consistently. Like I have days where I feel like great and like super clear, and then like the next day will feel like terrible, can't think of anything, worrying about like this imposter syndrome stuff comes up a ton. Like it's just like weighed down. Like I feel like, so the general feeling I've got is that I'm like up and down, like pretty wide swings now that I'm thinking about it. And for me, actually planning stuff out has been the most helpful. Like, you know, setting some goals and then actually like going the beginning of this week, I planned out different chunks of time of stuff that I was going to work on. And by doing that, I can actually like not worry about, oh, what am I going to do today? Because I start thinking about like, oh, what am I going to do today? And then I'm like, well, is it even worth it? Like, should I even do it? And this isn't really going to move the ball forward, blah, blah, blah. And I kind of convince myself out of doing things. But when I plan it out and kind of schedule it, I can get past that, the imposter syndrome stuff, or the like weaseling out by saying, well, it's not really that important. Like then I get it done, and then things start moving forward for me. That's like one of my ways that I can mitigate the like determination thing, like almost taking it away from being determined, and it's more like putting it into a process is what I find helpful. And then I don't stick with that. So then I find myself back here again. But
yeah, well, I think, you know, maybe what you're seeing is like when you have lulls, or like you don't have like constant action, you start thinking, right?
Yeah, get into a funk.
Yeah, like I have that too, where it's like, if I'm used to running at a certain pace, right? And when you have constant action every day, and you're seeing wins, and a win could be as small as like somebody liking your LinkedIn post,
Sure.
or a win could be, hey, I just, signed a $20,000, contract, or whatever it may be. Those things I think keep you going, right? And so I think that, especially when you're talking about, hey, okay, I'm now a small business owner, and I'm trying to make things work, or I'm getting things off the ground, and my work is different now because it's not a steady flow, and it's, you're figuring out all of these different things. You could go a day or two where it's like, hey, I didn't really do anything, or hey, and I've run into this too, because my world's changed where I used to be traveling like 35 months or 35 weeks out of the year, and come back and there's so much shit to do. There wasn't even time to like contemplate like, what should I be doing? It was just like, grab the thing that's most on fire, because there's plenty of stuff on fire. And so if you don't have that, and you're waking up and you're just like, okay, I gotta figure out what to do today, that's a dangerous place. That's a place that a lot of people can't live in. And so that's where I think you're seeing that. And I do feel that as well.
So like, all right, so that's pretty much why I'm asking a lot of these questions, is because that's what I'm going through now. And to kind of give you guys like a gist of how I got here, like I put up that video, the YouTube tutorial video for setting up like a podcast setup like this. And then like I'm doing a giveaway with it, and I was trying to get feedback, so I put out, and then I put it on Reddit, and somebody like made like a snarky comment. And in the past, that would have been like, I'd have been like, oh fuck, I can't believe it, and been so like defeated. But this time I was kind of took me back, but I'm moving in this direction. But it really got me thinking about, okay, what do I have prioritized? Like, what am I thinking that the main stuff is going to be that's going to move this ball forward? I've got the production business, and then I'm trying to do this stuff online, and then I'm doing this podcast, and then I'm doing the music, and then I'm trying to do more jujitsu. So I'm like, I got like a few, and then spending time with my wife and baby. Like, I'm trying to like get all of these things in order, but it is that like many avenues that you can go down that does throw me off a lot. And without that kind of, it's almost like you gotta like set stuff on fire and like throw it in front of you, kind of. Because I was looking at like the podcast production video, and I'm like, I want to sell an online course with this. But the guy was right. He was like, basically this video confirms that anybody that needs this video couldn't afford the equipment in this video. And then one thing that pissed me off is he also wrote like, edit, I am genuinely concerned about the amount of money you've put into a show with no audience. And I was like, fuck. But I was like, no, I have like a podcast production company, and then I do this using this equipment.
You replied to him saying that?
Basically. Oh. And I said, yeah, thank you for your concern. I appreciate it. Hey, you guy on Reddit, fuck you.
You know who you are.
Thank you for the motivation. Now go fuck yourself. But so that's so that just got me thinking of what I've got as priorities. And I realized like, oh, okay, I'm not going to be able to sell this to most people as it is. I probably got to circle back and look at doing this as like selling, like how to start a podcast production company. Like, I think I could sell that to more people who would pay more money for that, and I can deliver way more value by doing something like that. But to get that ball rolling, I got to get a bunch of customers and really like flush out this business. And then by the time I would turn around and go do that and put something like that together, it'd be 10 times easier to put it together, because I'd have way more real world scenarios that I could talk through, way more stuff that I could show people, probably make way more money in the long run. But I don't know, when I did some of these things, like if you don't have that priority or these things that make you prioritize, then the demotivation comes in, and then you start thinking like, "Whoa, can I do this?" Like,
I think the other thing too is that, you know, and this will probably, you know, contradict what some people will say, you know, like there's people out there saying, like, you know, if you listen to Gary V or somebody like that, it'll be like, you know, oh, you know, this is you know, you should be in things for like the long term, right? And hey, you know, people are making movies that they started making a movie 12 years ago and it finally got picked up. Or like, I think that was the case with like Squid Games or something, where it was like, you know, whatever. But you also, I mean, if that's what you're locked in and you're like, I am going to make this freaking movie, which some of these people are, then that's great. But if you're not like that, then you're just riding like this like runaway train that if you just keep riding it, you're going to crash at some point if you're not all in on that. And so I don't think that it's a negative to pull the plug or change directions on something after, you know, you say, hey, I gotta put a time limit on something, right? And say, this is the business that I want to do. I'm going to go out and go all in for 3 months. And if I don't have a customer, if I don't have a, you know, a business at the end of that time, I need to understand that like you have a life and a family and everything else. And like, I got to change directions and I got to change it quick, you know?
well, and that's what keeps me thinking about this stuff is like now wife, baby, house, all these things, and just it's the money coming in that I can make from this thing. So you're like constantly pinging. So like, what do you do to like assess this stuff and like stay, I don't know, like clear-headed about where you're at?
I mean, I think I mean, for me, it's just getting kind of, like I said, like those consistent like hits,
Small wins.
It's all about kind of small wins and knowing, you know, hey, I'm getting people's attention. I'm having good conversations. I'm getting commitments from people. Like, okay, this is starting to make sense. Like when I'm telling somebody, like telling them the story about what we're doing, I'm getting a lot of people saying, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then you're just, you know, you kind of go from there. I don't know if that answers that question.
Yeah,
really.
No, it does.
When do you think, Greg, when you like get to a point in something, when do you, I guess, when are the determinants when you say, okay, maybe it's time to like move on to something else? You're working on a project and you're like, okay, this is my end goal with this project, and you keep going. I heard this cool acronym today or yesterday. It was FOCUS, follow one course until successful. And I was like, that's kind of cool because I jump to a bunch of different things all the time. But yeah, when do you think so? Like you're following this course and you're like, okay, this is where I'm going to go with this. When do you think it's time to call it quits?
I don't know. I think that's pretty tough.
Yeah.
You know, it's a pretty tough question to answer because it really depends. I guess it just really depends. Depends on, you know, depends on how much you like love whatever you're doing. I think it depends on your, you know, personality. It depends on your life. Like everybody has different circumstances,
Just a lot of
right?
different variables.
And so, yeah, I think it's tough. I think for people that are going down a path and they're, you know, maybe not seeing the success that they want, they need to start making changes to try and get those successes, right? Because like, you know, there's a million different ways to approach a lot of these, you know, whatever the project or career or whatever. And so there is no one path, right? And so, you keep going, you got to make these constant adjustments. And I think it's after you've made a number of adjustments and you still are not happy with where it is, I think you then need to step back and say, okay, is this what I thought it was going to be? Or in reality, could this ever go where I thought it could go? And, and take it from there. But
So
I
it's
think
like
there's a lot to consider, right? Because there's a lot of things out there that have taken a long time to become what they are today. And there's a lot of people that have been called crazy or like, this will never work or you'll never do this, right?
Yeah.
And they're successful in it. There's way, way more people out there that were told that and it never became anything, and they crash and burn and have, and it, in some cases, it ruins their life, right? Because they kept, hitting their head against the wall until there was nothing left.
That's a good point, because it's finding that balance of like where you get into that fucking crazy zone of like, let me just drive this into the ground. Because I mean, everybody looks at like, I don't know. Again, I don't know what the right example would be, but Squid Game's probably the right example. But it's like that, something like that is, you need to be moving forward and making these like constant changes and making like adjustments to get to where you want to go. It's the people that have these huge breakthroughs. It's not really from just driving blindly, doing the same thing. It's going in, reassessing. But you also got to put this stuff out there too. That's what I realized. That was part of the fear with some of this stuff is when I look at this business, right? And like I was trying to figure out what it was. Like a lot of this comes from the feedback that you get from bringing your ideas to reality. Because it's a fucking terrifying idea that I can think like, okay, the past 6 months that I've been putting this stuff together and like launching a business, what if this doesn't make sense? Like, what if I just wasted a bunch of time and money to get this thing going and like it fails? It's not, I don't look at this stuff as like, oh, I go to sell this service and then somebody doesn't have a use for it, whatever it might be, that I'm a failure because like they didn't. It's more like, hey, I'm putting my effort into this. If people say no and I fundamentally find out this is like a stupid idea or this was like worthless, like that to me is a terrifying thought, but also it's something that you gotta face.
Yeah. So I think in a lot of these cases, when people go and they're starting up a new company, there's always going to be people who say like, oh, this is a terrible idea. Whether you look at, Facebook or, all these companies out there, there's millions of people that said like, this is stupid. Yeah. There was also like, really a small percentage of the population that said like, oh, this is neat. Like, we kind of see what you're doing here. You get those people on, you start taking feedback from the people who like it, and you start taking feedback from the people who told you, like, hey, this is never going to work. And then you can incrementally build something on top of it. I think going back to like kind of hitting your head against the wall is like, if you're not really trying to put it out there because you're not sure about something or you don't know, like, how is this going to be received? It's almost impossible to get that feedback from the people that you're trying to sell to.
Yeah, because you don't want to go out there and put yourself out there.
But as you can see, is like, okay, it starts off as one thing. You go out and you say like, hey, this is what we're trying to do. In general, this is the business. And you talk to people and you say, well, we kind of don't really need that, or maybe we don't need that right now, but we need this. And there's plenty of businesses that have been built off of that slight course change.
Yeah.
And that also allows you to build like a revenue base off of maybe not what your original idea was, but at the same time that could fund your original idea.
Yeah.
Right. And so, yeah, I think it's just all about like constant course correction and making, these minor corrections. Even, there's something from that Carl had written. I don't know if you had seen that article.
The 1 in 60?
Yeah, the 1 in 60 rule where, basically it's like, you start off with a plan, and if that plan is off by 1 degree, you just keep going, 3 months, 6 months, a year from now, you're going to be way off course, even though you were just slightly off course in the beginning. So it's all about those minor course corrections to get you where you're at.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's a cool concept. He actually talked about it in sales a lot too. It made sense in that context. But also kind of just metaphorically speaking with that, you think about pilots, they're in constant communication with the ground. They are like constantly listening. They're constantly talking with different air traffic controllers to make sure that they're heading in the right direction. I think it's probably similar with businesses. You got to just keep putting it out there. Yeah. But
I think the other thing too is like, you said, hey, I could be doing this for 6 months. I'm terrified of the idea that like it doesn't work out. Like, what exactly are you terrified about?
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing like, I think in a lot of these cases, people tend to be more stressed out about certain things than they really need to be.
For sure.
Because, nowadays it's not like if something doesn't pan out, especially for people that are competent and likable and like have a skill set, you're not going to die. Right?
Yeah.
That's what I always told, all of our team members. Like customers pissed, you screw something up, you forget to respond to somebody, you're not going to die. I mean, now there are there's certain cases where you could die. And so, there are professions where you really need to be on the ball.
For the most part, we're not
talking about life and death type situations, right? And so if this doesn't work out, whatever this ends up being, like, you're not going to be dead.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah. You put it in that perspective and you're like, all right, what am I so worried about?
Yeah. So,
it is. Yeah. It is kind of like that assessment of what's the worst case scenario, right? That you do this, like, could you lose everything? If you fuck up, what does that look like? I don't know. For me,
yeah, and to stop worrying about what other people think about it too.
That's a big factor.
Who gives a shit, Yeah. Especially, I think everything that you do, as long as you're doing it in a, like a good fashion, that's in line with kind of like how you live your life and your morals and everything like that, then who cares what somebody thinks about it, being like, oh, hey, if you wanted to go spend $20,000 to sit here and record a stupid podcast with me and Matt, like, who gives a fuck? That's your own prerogative. You spent the money, like you earned it. So who cares?
I'm concerned with the Reddit guy had to say.
Well, dude, and that's the thing too. If you think about the type of people that go online and or like that have the time to tell you what you're doing is shitty or it's not worth anything, like, I would never say it to anybody in my like, dude, you guys do stuff that is beyond what most people even do in their lives to even like start something like this. So people just get on these things and they're like, they want to do whatever you're doing or be a part of it. So they want to talk a little shit and criticize. That's why I don't like critics, man.
Yeah, I think critics is like one of the fucking
The worst.
lamest things ever. Like, oh, I saw that, and honestly, it was a trope of a 1820s classic theme, and you're like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, like I would get it if like Gordon Ramsay, came to a restaurant and was like, "I'm gonna
Your
critique
chicken nuggets are shit."
Yeah, it's like if he would come to a restaurant and like somebody asked him to come or whatever, like, okay, I would probably value his opinion.
Yeah.
You may and you may not. I
Yeah.
mean, there's plenty of restaurants like Gordon Ramsay would come in and say your shit, and they'd be like, okay, what does it matter?
Yeah.
I ran this business. I still make money. I'm living the life that I want to live. I don't give a fuck what you think.
Yeah.
You know?
At the same time, too, like, yes, I guess sometimes critiques.
Fuck you, Gordon.
Yeah, critiques can be helpful, or like objections in sales. I have a very minor sales experience, but dude, sometimes like not getting a sale and then getting an objection from somebody only makes your next sales call that much better because you have an arsenal now of things that you know people are probably going to say. So it's like, hey, I don't need your product because of this. Be like, oh, okay. So I can eliminate this out of, or if you hear that too many times, you're like, okay, obviously this is a problem.
Matt, you need to leave because I don't like you.
Yeah, I'm like, too many people don't like me. I think I need to change course a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, but even with that, it's like, I got to change my personality. I got to change what I'm focusing on.
Wow, am I being a dick right now? Like, you don't know what. Yeah, that's.
Well, I mean, that's how it was in sales too at Flight Docs. It was like going in and initially being worried what people think, and then you spend the whole time focusing on that versus like focusing on, okay, what does this person need? Like, what do they actually need? This person doesn't want to be my friend. Like, this guy's like 65. He's been in aviation for 30 years. I'm like 27 years old. I have nothing that I can really bring of value to him other than this thing. So, like, I guess I've had some good conversations.
You've had plenty of good conversations.
No, but you know what I mean? Like, for somebody to randomly call you out of the blue and be like, hey, Mr. So-and-so that's in Idaho and I'm in Florida, like, can I tell you about this thing? Actually, one guy I did talk to offered...
This would never happen.
He did offer to...
Chris already has some stories.
He did offer to take me hunting. He didn't sign up for and buy from me, but he's like, hey, dude, if you learn how to hunt, like, if you get a gun and stuff, like, I'll take you when I go out. Like, I go out once a year to this, like, place. He's like, I'll show you how to, like, fucking hunt elk or something. I was like, all right, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Sounds like the beginning of a Netflix
I
miniseries.
know.
I don't want to buy your product, but if you want to.
Well,
Take
you
you out
seem
to my
like a
farm.
strong young buck.
Hey, go over there and load up my truck for me.
So wait, you don't know this guy? You're just going on a trip with him? Yeah, I'm meeting him on his farm.
Honestly, though, like, I probably would go do that.
Probably.
I mean, I did that with the road trip. I went around the country. I slept at an aunt's house that I had never met and that my dad had not seen since the 70s. And
That's pretty weird.
It worked out.
Yeah.
They were super cool.
Dude, was that a wild ride? Did you do any like couch surfing?
Yeah, that was pretty much what I did. Like,
but
the whole
people
time.
you didn't know. Because there was a website. My buddy was one of the not first people to do it, but he did it when like before I graduated high school. I knew a guy that graduated before me.
Is it Casting Couch?
No, and he drove all over, man. And you would get on, and you'd be like, hey, I'm looking for a
Hot
place to
young
stay.
man looking for a place to stay can satisfy many needs.
First of all, why are you describing yourself as that? Yeah, and then people would be like, yeah, man, you have dinner with me, you can sleep on my couch. And then you'd be up in the morning and hit the trail. That's
kind of cool, but also kind of
serial killer
cool
vibey
as well. Yeah, a little bit serial killer vibey. I'm good with the spontaneous, like, go with the flow wherever it takes me, but like sometimes you don't need to jump into the flow head first. Like, it's kind of like diving into potentially very shallow water. Like, this could be a great river.
There's a
but
lot of freaking weird people out there.
Yeah.
Like, if you just walk through Target, like
Walmart.
I mean, and these are the people that are trying to make a quick couple bucks too off of people staying on their couch. So I don't know. That's
you're right.
not for me. At the same time,
you wouldn't do any of these? I'm genuinely surprised that you would not do this.
I would not. I've stayed in some sketchy places. I've stayed in hostels and some weird houses, and so I've stayed in some weird places, some questionable places, but like going where like, you know, they to go to the bathroom, they like walk past you sleeping. That's pretty strange.
Yeah.
I like that.
Hey, where you going? I'm going to pee. Oh, cool.
You want to come?
Literally.
So those are the kinds of places I enjoyed staying.
So you had a good road trip. Actually, I've heard about your road trip. So you started where? In Florida or New York?
Florida. Yeah. Oh, it was awesome.
And then where'd you go?
I went to New Orleans, Texas, Colorado, Utah, California, drove up like the whole Pacific Coast Highway, Seattle area, Chicago, Nashville, and back. Oh, in Nashville, did I ever tell you this story? So I was at this, I went out, I stayed at a hostel actually, and I went out downtown in like the Broadway area. I guess this was like 7 years ago. Shit, that's a long time ago. But I'm out, I'm eating food. It's like 2 a.m. after most of the bars close, and I'm eating food. I'm sitting there. It's like a long row of seats, and like a guy sits in the seat next to me. So it's like, you know, it's like a bunch of tables. It's like one long seat, but then there's tables and then like a chair on the other side. So it's like one long bench, but it's a bunch of tables. So the guy sits at the table next to me, but like the other table. And he starts talking to me. I'm like, all right, that's fine. Like, just on that trip, I did talk to fucking anybody. When you're driving around the country by yourself for 7 weeks, you just start fucking talking to everybody. There's like you just get used to it. And then at one point, he's like, so you want to play a game? And I was like, I don't know. What's the game? He's like, well, it's a race. And I was like, okay, what is the race? He's like, you know, like first to finish wins. I was like, what? And he's like, look, just listen. Like, if you come back with me to my hotel room, like first to finish, like if you win, I'll give you $100. I was like, no, I'm good. Thanks, dude. I was like, wow, that was cool. Like, I've never been propositioned to potentially win $100 just for jacking off. I thought it was a great deal. I actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know why I didn't take him up on it.
Dude, very disturbing.
That
to
is
be honest with you.
Yes. So anyway, I went up to his room.
So I won.
Dude.
No, it was
I
strange.
was gonna make a joke that happened, and then it actually happened.
No, and that was definitely strange. There was like a lot of stuff on the trip though that could have been strange that ended up being really cool though. Like, I stayed at a hostel in San Francisco. I met these 2 sisters from New Zealand, and we were on this pub crawl, and I was talking to them. I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking about going to Yosemite in a couple of days. Like, oh, we are too. I was like, all right, well, let's hang out tomorrow, make sure that both of us aren't serial killers, and then if we're all good with it, then I'll drive you guys to Yosemite. And I ended up doing that, and they actually visited me in Florida on the tail end of their trip. That was cool.
Yeah.
I think the guy that we went camping with, I think he might have been gay. I'm not sure. He might have been confused. But
The guy in Yosemite?
No.
The guy with the hotel room for $100?
No, this is a different
I
camp.
bet on that, but yeah.
No, I think that guy was gay.
Maybe not.
You don't know these days.
So, on a more serious note, when you started the trip, when you got done with the trip, did you have an overall like conclusion? Because why did you go on the trip in the first place? Do you just feel like, hey, I'm just gonna do this trip?
Do you remember the mental state that I was in?
Yeah, very, very fragile.
I think the leading up to that trip, Greg was real fucking close to killing me.
Oh, you guys worked together, didn't you?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. It wasn't good. Yeah, wasn't good. Second time around was a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was my third. Actually, that was my second.
The third time, yeah. The
third
first
time's a
time he
charm.
was the shipping manager, the shipping and logistics. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And so he boxed stuff up, got us some nice boxes.
I really made those boxes look nice.
Yeah, it took about a year to get boxes and then some tape and put them together. Yeah, it was that part was good.
Came out nice. I printed out these different labels and stuff. It looked good.
It sounds
Yeah.
it's very difficult.
The next go around wasn't.
Yeah, next go around, he didn't really want to be there, I would say.
Is this
And,
the pre-trip, the second time?
pre-trip? Yeah, and didn't really want to be there and was like fucking up, and then he left.
Yeah.
Thought there were some greener pastures on the other side. Didn't really like that, and then he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm going on this trip." So I don't know. Maybe it was worth it for him.
Dude, I was a terrible employee at that time. Like, I was just miserable. I was just like walking around like miserable.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Thinking about things too much.
Yeah. I was spending a lot of time thinking about things. But what really set me to do that was I moved to Orlando after I quit Flight Docs, and I went and worked for this company that turned out to be like basically a scam company. It was a call center where, like, I'm not saying this to be mean, but like poor, uneducated people would call thinking that this was like a warehouse job, and then you'd basically transfer them over to somebody, an education advisor, and then the education advisor would get their permission to have colleges call them. So, like, basically you walk people through this process, and then you get them to accept multiple online colleges to, like, call you and email you non-fucking stop. Like, I signed up for this thing. This guy from, like, Grand Canyon University called me like 65 times in like a 3-month period. He called, like, there was a stretch where he called me every day and was like, "Are you ready to sign up and change your future?" I'm like, "No."
And you worked here.
I worked.
How
there.
long did it take you until you realized, holy shit, I'm part of a scam?
Maybe. Honestly, it might have been in like 2 weeks, but
So it was
I
pretty
only
quick.
worked there for 2 months. And the only reason why I lasted that long is because they said, okay, we're starting this new division of the business where you're going to work with people like on a more consistent basis and help them get jobs and like help them with resumes and all this stuff. And I'm like, all right, this will be good. I just made a fucking terrible mistake leaving the last company I was at. So let me do this. I can help people out, but I can learn what it's like to start a new section of a business. And then I can take this and I can go do whatever it is that I ended up doing. And it just kind of like kept like getting pushed back. Well, it's actually going to be a little longer down the road than we thought. And oh my God, I wanted to kill myself. Me and this one guy, we would like go to lunch together, and you had to follow this script. And he was like, "Oh, hi, this is Ryan with XYZ company. Yeah, what I'm going to need you to do is come to here to XYZ Street in Orlando. I'm going to need you to make a left-hand turn behind the desk and bring a 12-gauge shotgun so you can blow my fucking head off." Dude, that place sucked. It was awful.
So that's what spawned the road trip.
Yeah, and then I kind of looked around for jobs in Orlando, and then I was listening to Tim Ferriss's book, and he goes all over the place. So I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Why don't I just go drive? I'll drive to Austin, see if I find something there, because I liked Onnit a lot. So I was like, I'll go to the Onnit gym and see what happens.
Did you see anybody there at the Onnit gym that you knew?
Just the employees.
Yeah.
Just the regular employees that were there that day. And
Joe Rogan wasn't there swinging kettlebells.
he was not there.
Well, I know that they work out there a lot, right? the different athletes?
I'm sure. Yeah. I
It's
mean,
just a gym that just has the weights and nobody actually uses it.
there was nobody in there. No, it was really cool. But like, I was like, all right, this isn't going to be for me. And then I was like, all right, well, I'm going to go to LA, stay on my friend's couch and see what happens. Like if there's something out there, and I don't know, just kept going. One thing that I did learn on that trip, like, was it did change my perception of time, because every day felt very long. Like every day was like the longest day of my life. I think it's because like,
In a good way or a bad way?
in a good way. Like, because, I mean, if you think about it, if you're driving across the whole country and you've never seen any of those places before, like, you're literally spending a whole day learning new stuff. It's like all new experiences. I don't know. You look at me like crazy with this stuff. Like, do you
crazy?
Do you get any? Do you like? I feel like you don't feel like this stuff at all.
No, I mean, there's just it's just different.
It's still different.
I've spent plenty of time traveling, so I get it.
It's literally never changed my perception on anything.
My perception's set in stone.
I remember one time we were driving to his bachelor party in Key West, and like we're driving, and I'm like telling him all these things, and he's just like, "Yeah, no, I've like never had that thought before."
It just reconfirms that you are a dumbass.
Yeah.
I'm out of my fucking mind. Like, I'm definitely have something wrong in my head.
He was like, have you ever thought about these things before? I'm like, no, I'm never gonna think about them ever again.
No, I don't waste my time.
I'm like, yeah, you spend way too much time like recollecting on the past, which is not. Yeah, that's not for me. I don't care.
That's why you get things done, though, is because you're just like.
That's what I'm saying, dude.
I don't care.
There's less people like you, and there's more people that do like, because I do that too. Maybe not as much, but.
Yeah. But like, it's not like I don't care what happened in the past. But I take those things like, obviously I learn from, what I've seen work, what I've seen fail, where I see people like, being happy or sad or whatever. And so, I take those things into consideration, but I take them into consideration at an extremely fast rate.
Yeah. Very shallow levels in and out.
Yeah. Like he's like, yeah, it took a weekend to, think about that contract that I sent out. Like, yeah, no. Like, no.
Send them.
Not thinking about it for nearly that much time.
Yeah, I met this guy, got me thinking. I'm like, no. Thinking? It did it.
I like to ponder. Pondering is one
pondering.
of my, it's one of my favorite things.
Here's what's funny. So do you read a lot, Greg?
No.
Dude, see, and here's the thing that like people can be so successful and then not do this and then like be dweebs like us and like I read all this stuff about stoicism and I'm like, oh, I'm bettering myself in the world around me. And I'm just thinking about things all the time. And then people are getting a billion things done around me.
And then Greg just says, like, no.
No. Yeah. No, I mean, I would like to. Like the thought of reading sounds like,
really
good
nice
sometimes.
Yeah.
And
I see Greg open a book. No.
Yeah. It's like, 20 pages in. And, then because I'm thinking about, like, as I'm doing that,
the things that I'm makes you think about.
Exactly. And so, yeah, like I started reading like this sales management playbook a couple months ago. And I'm like, hey, I want to get, listen, I know how to sell. I know how to like structure a team, but I need to get like really locked in on the kind of like how do I say it? All the jargon that a lot of salespeople are familiar with, right?
Like different KPIs and the way that you measure stuff. And
not necessarily that, but more about like, there's like medic and challenger and all these different things, which I don't really care about.
Like industry terms, or it's just sales terms
These
in
are
general?
sales methodologies, I guess you could say, right?
Yeah.
Where it's, how do you approach, from that first call through the close? What are all these steps that you have to take to kind of be successful? Personally, I think a lot of that stuff is outdated, but I still want to be familiar with it so that when people are coming from other places where they're like, oh yeah, like I use Challenger, I can relate to what that is, because people in my world don't, necessarily have that. But people coming in, I want to be able to talk to that, right? So, I started reading this book. I'm like, okay, but like every little thing, I'm like, like I want to incorporate that, or I want to, hey, I'm going to send this guy, that I was just talking to or have a proposal out to, I want to send him a message about, this.
That falls in line with kind of this like methodology.
I get way too just distracted on like action and, just jumping into things that I never,
I get that. That's how I am too with some of
Yeah.
this stuff. Is you like read it or you watch like a YouTube video about something, and then I'm like, you're only a little bit in. You're like, oh, that's a great idea. Let me go try that, and you
Yeah.
just put down whatever you're doing and go incorporate that.
So I do that a lot, and then I just like
I just vibe.
Yeah, just vibing. But I like just doing,
Yeah.
So it's tough for me to, sit back and read. Because I'd rather be like
Doing.
out on the boat or traveling or, building something or whatever it may be. So yeah, it's tough for me, but that's where I think like podcasts have come in pretty huge in regards to learning about new stuff and like new topics and things, because I'm listening to it in the most of the podcast stuff that I listen to is all in the car.
Yeah.
And so as I'm driving from point A to point B, I can get somewhat schooled up on these things, and you're hearing it from people that are living it, right? It's
Yeah.
not just like an article that has no personality, right? And so you can kind of connect those things to your day to day.
Well, it's kind of like it's like listening into a conversation that other people
Yeah.
are having that might be experts on it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's why everybody likes Joe Rogan, is like you get to be. It's almost like you get the chance to talk to this expert.
Yeah. And I think that, one of the cool things, especially for, me, is like I'm always like kind of gleaning these little like, bits of information, and, I don't necessarily consider myself an expert in any of these, different disciplines, like whatever it may be, from like surfing to fishing to,
Yeah.
aviation software or sales or whatever it may be. But I think it's like, if you're listening and you're listening to people that have done a lot of these things, and you really like think about how you can, implement them in whatever you're doing, I think you can pick up a lot and take that experience and put it to work, and really jump over having to like learn all of those things on your own.
Yeah,
Like,
even the starting point helps. Like with the like we've been listening to the show. It's called Grow the Show. I've only listened to maybe 3 episodes, but it's like kind of focused on growing podcasts and things like that.
Yeah.
And they have different people on that talk about all different stuff in relation to growing an audience, doing all these different things. But like, it's not like I don't have a brain where I listen to something like that and I retain everything. It's more like I listen to it and I maybe take away 5% of what the overall message is, but you kind of have like a little bit of a roadmap that somebody else has kind of walked down that path, and you can just go like, all right, well, let me check out these 5 different things that I didn't fucking know about,
Yeah.
and then slowly start incorporating it in.
Well, you're right. It's I never thought about it that way. It's like listening to two people have a conversation, but asking questions that you necessarily wouldn't have asked, but that you would love to know the answer to. Then all of a sudden, it starts sparking different things, and you have more general knowledge of whatever that conversation was.
Yeah.
And I think you can. So as an example, it's like, and maybe it's a good example, maybe it's not. But for instance, like you've been talking a lot about the crypto space and NFTs and all that type of stuff, which if you wanted to, you could spend days and days researching, kind of digging into the details of all of this stuff. And for me, like I've now watched a handful of videos to kind of get like caught up on it. I'm not going to be an NFT expert, but as time goes on, I'm going to be aware of kind of like what's out there. And when the opportunity is right, I can at least speak to, okay, this is where, this is what this technology is capable of. And here's like where it could potentially be used in my world. And when I need to dig into the details of it, then I'll dig into the details of it. I'm not doing all this upfront, like, digging, because it's not gonna pay out for me in the short term,
Well, and with some of this stuff too is like I'm setting aside time to read and learn about it, so that way I can see those opportunities when they come, because it's like new to me. It's kind of fascinating. I'm also concerned about the money printing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Not
And
so
Russia.
much. I guess Russia a little bit, but like the money printing, all that stuff. Just looking for alternative ways forward, because everything is like gloom and doom, and everything's fucked, and you're gonna have the crash and this crash and that, and it's more like, all right, I got to look for a way forward, because not everybody that's out there is fucking stupid. Blah blah blah. All these things like the old system. Blah blah. It's just I see crypto as a potentially a solution to this craziness that's going on now, and I just want to like know the path forward. So I want to spend the time to learn about it, possibly move more money into it if there's opportunities that come with the technology and I understand it, and most people don't. Then maybe I can make a bunch of money because I kind of know about this stuff. But it for me, it's like setting aside that time to make sure that I actually do it and learn about it.
Yeah, you probably know even more than you think you know, because I've been talking to people about crypto, and I feel like I know a lot more than I even realized by talking to people. Was that you that sent me that chart? Or maybe I saw it on Reddit. They did like a poll of how many people have never heard of crypto.
No,
and it's like a very high amount, because people are like, oh, NFTs and all this stuff, it's like it's oversaturated. You can't make money less anymore. Cryptos are going to, go down. Everyone's going to lose their money. And then it's like people are like, don't even know what crypto is yet.
well, and that gets
It's not even, the entry level right now is so easy for all this stuff, and people have no idea.
Well, that's why I want to get schooled up on it, is just to kind of be somewhat early to this stuff, because I look at a lot of stuff that I wasn't early on, and people that were early made like a shitload of money. I'm sure all the people that make a shitload of money, there's way more stories of people getting fucking hosed.
Yeah.
But I also I don't want to be in that space. Like, and I feel like if I can school myself up, then I can avoid that. But it gets back to your point before, is like, think of how many people are out there. Like everyone thinks like, oh, crypto's oversaturated, and so many people don't even know what it is. Like, look at your business or the things that you're doing, and you're worried about, or like, will anybody like this, blah, blah, blah. It's like, you don't need everybody. Like, not everybody needs to understand it or want it or find value in it for it to be valuable, or for you to keep moving ahead. Like, you got to be smart about it. You can't just do it if literally nobody wants it. But there's way more than just the one person that tells you no, and you get derailed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the other thing too is like, knowing, going back to kind of earlier in the conversation on kind of knowing what you're good at and focusing on those strengths, and like kind of investing more time into what you're good at, because I think you could always, like I said, you can always be learning, but I think, sometimes people could get maybe spread too thin.
That's where I was at. That's what got
yeah.
me into this situation that led me here. Was that
and I think that, you see, I always find it funny, like looking through LinkedIn and some of the stuff that you see on there, and it's just like, there's a lot of BS out there about people saying all this stuff and they've never really done it.
That's why I don't put podcast host in my title, because anytime I see somebody that says podcast host in their LinkedIn title, I'm like, this person's probably full of shit.
Well, I just add podcast host to my
Did you?
my jobs. Yeah, not my title, not my headline, but
all right, I'll let you get away with it.
So
the job.
I'm a little upset, and I'm gonna go home and contemplate what I should do with this information.
Greg, you don't need to worry about what people think about you online, dude.
No, but
just in person.
There's a lot of stuff about like, like side hustles and but I think in some cases, I'm all for it, right? But in other cases, it's like if your attention is split between multiple different things, like if you have a career and you have a good job, there's a lot of people that think that like, oh, all I have to do is kind of put in this amount of effort and put in the 40 hours and like it is what it is. It's not necessarily the case. Like if you go above and beyond and take that time that you're investing in other things and invest it into like your career and what you're doing, there's opportunities there. And maybe you're not in the right organization, right?
That's a big piece
of it. So like
if
you work for, a massive company, you might be right in like, hey, if I put in the extra time and I stay late and I, learn all this stuff, like, listen, you'll probably move up faster than other people, but it might not pay off for a long time.
That might just be it.
It might just be, hey, we're doing a reorg, or hey, this other guy's been here for 3 years longer than you, he's going to get the promotion, right? So you might be in the wrong organization. And so you might want to consider moving somewhere where, you're more visible, you can make a difference for the company. And that's where we've seen, somebody come in at, answering the phones, doing customer service, and ends up being a senior executive in 4 or 5 years at a company, right? But the other, kind of going back to some of the stuff with like crypto, and I was talking to one of my friends the other day, like he's spending a lot of time in the stock market, right? And so constantly, it's just like Instagram,
it's just
right?
as addicting.
You're in there constantly checking, trying to make all of these moves and stuff. And he has he's an executive at a company, right? And so he's spending all this time worried about the stock market. And it's like, man, what if you just didn't do that? Like, yeah, there could be a good reward on it, but like, what if you put that away and just like focused on like the core of what you're doing? Don't you think you could make a lot more money like without all that distraction? And so I think that's something to consider as well. And, personally, like I haven't messed around with, stock market. I have, a little bit of money in, but it's more just like, I check it once every couple of weeks or whatever.
Yeah.
But for me, like, I'm not going to take a big chunk of money and essentially gamble and, worry about and spend my time worrying about these things, because I'd rather take the time and invest it in myself, essentially.
Well, and so this is kind of what we've talked about, is like that's been a big reason why I haven't wanted to dive into the cryptocurrency and put a bunch of stuff in there before I kind of saw all this stuff happening with the amount of money being printed, because like I don't want to look at this as another stock market, as another investment thing
Right.
where I'm constantly checking it and constantly worried. Like I'm more looking at like what's a safe place to move money, and like where is the future of money
Yeah.
going, and then what does this technology bring and how's it going to be implemented. I think like you could find opportunities there. I'm not necessarily looking at it for like the stock market piece. But
Yeah.
no, that's a good point with the spreading yourself too thin, and like what do you focus on? Because that is a big reason why I kind of started writing about some of this stuff, was the realization that I was spreading myself too thin, and then it distracts from what you actually should be doing and what like you said is going to actually move the ball forward the most. One thing I will say about like spreading yourself too thin with some of these things that you kind of have to look at, and I had to be like brutally honest with myself. And again, this is going to sound totally foreign to you because this thought probably never entered your head, but like with the actual goals that you have and like the things that you do, like you have to really look at what your true underlying goals are and be honest with yourself, because then you can kind of understand why you're doing the things that you're doing. So like like I said, I was like afraid to go out and put some of this stuff out to market, right? And find out if this is even valuable, XYZ. So like at the core of it, the goal ends up being like self-preservation. Like how do I like protect myself from having to deal with that thought? Then you start setting up your goals around it. So it's like, all right, well then I could just, work on this thing and put out the YouTube video and then start building an online course and then all this stuff. It's like, I want to make money, but then at the end of the day, when you really break it down and cut to the core of it, it all kind of was spreading out. So I didn't have to, I don't know, find out what I'm made of or like what my capabilities are and all these kinds of things. I mean, that's something to consider if you find yourself in this spot of spreading yourself too thin, is like, why are you there? And it's not, if you're spreading yourself too thin, the issue isn't like, oh, you're so lazy, like he's probably, if he's an executive, he's not lazy. He's not doing it or not doing something because like, oh, I just don't feel like it. But it's like, if I can spin myself up and get super focused on this other thing and then like read these articles and get like all anxious about it, and well, this is really important. Oh fuck, the market got crushed today. Did you guys see the market and the S&P and the Dow was 16 points? It's like, if you focus on that, like sometimes you gotta take a step back and look at like, what am I actually trying to do? Like, do I not want to like hit a wall with that career that maybe like I don't know if I could get over? I don't know. There could be some underlying stuff there. Maybe some people are just like, they're just distracted by the anxiety that it produces. It's like addictive, but
yeah, I think you can also get caught up in, doing all the things that don't really don't lead to a success or a failure. Right. So if you
like either a success or a failure.
Right. Like it's just, hey, well, you get caught up doing all these tasks, right? And maybe the tasks don't lead to that yes or no. They don't lead to like, you don't get to a conflict point in doing some of these things, right? And so, you spend all this time doing all this stuff and saying you're so busy while these couple little things hang off on the side, but you have to do those few things to make it to the next level.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I started doing that, looking at things that way, like, can I succeed or fail at this? And if not, maybe cut those things out. Yeah.
Just don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. So, well, I learned a lot today.
Yeah. Thanks,
I actually
Greg.
did.
Hey, dude, I'm going to learn something else. Why is that straw so big in that drink? Like, seriously, what?
I'm not sure. I don't know. It is a smoothie. It's clearly like a smooth. Actually, you know what? It looks like it's like a boba. One of those like boba tea smoothies.
That have like the little ball things.
Yeah. Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
The like Japanese.
Yeah.
Bubble,
a lot
tea.
of the smoothie shakes, they got those big straws.
Yeah, but this
I've
isn't.
never
This
gotten
isn't
a drink with a straw like that.
No.
You've never gotten a drink with a straw?
They have them at PDQ if you get a milkshake.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the girls get milkshakes and that's what they come with. One of those bad
Thing's
boys.
got some girth.
Yeah. Milkshake straw. That way you can inject the kratom into your veins faster.
Gotta love some kratom.
I still haven't tried it. Does it make you relaxed? I think we've talked about this before.
It can. There's a few different kinds, like relaxed, better mood.
Sounds like a bomb.
It does kind of sound like
I feel like it's just gonna like blow me apart.
Yeah.
Man.
It could.
I was told that there's really so this was by a pharmacist saying like based on the properties of kratom, like how they have, and I'm not an expert in this, but there's a couple different, like they do like these colors, right? And so like one's supposed to give you like energy, one's supposed to make you relaxed. I was told that it's not possible based on like the actual like chemical properties in these, and that might just be like a marketing
Like a placebo
type thing.
I could totally see that being true.
That the properties are typically like relaxation, healing, that type of thing, but there's no way that like it could give you
energy in this case, but then mellow you out.
Yeah. So I don't know. That was a very quick conversation, but that's what I was told.
All right, that's interesting.
By a doctor.
Wow.
Well, a pharmacist. I don't know if that counts as a doctor.
Dude, I consider
whatever.
a pharmacist pretty much as a doctor.
Yeah.
I mean, they're a person of medicine.
Yeah.
You could.
I mean, they
into
know what they're talking about when it comes to
Dude, if you
medicine.
just don't want to make a doctor's appointment, just go to. No joke. I do this. Go to a pharmacist and say like, "Hey, here are my symptoms." They're like, "Oh, you have this. Just get this."
Really?
Yeah. Done it for a couple things.
They can't write for a prescription.
No, but you can go.
Yeah,
if it's over the
like,
counter stuff, to be like,
yeah,
hey,
I got
dude.
diarrhea. Like, they're probably like,
can
look
you
at this moron.
Can you explain your symptoms? Well, it's watery when it comes out. Like, do you have diarrhea? Look, you're a doctor.
There's like two options. You got Imodium and Pepto.
Yeah, get some coldies. You'll be all right.
You could just text me that next time. I'll save you a trip to Walgreens.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah, you want to swing by
But
my
I'm saying,
house
like,
and have some extra Imodium?
I'm saying though, if there's like a bigger ailment than just like your common things, like
Sir,
pick
there's
it
a
up.
bone sticking out of your leg. You're gonna need to go to the hospital.
yeah, but I heard that you guys can pretty much just tell me what I need to do.
Yeah.
You need to go to the hospital.
Yeah, here's your prescription. This is 911 on it. Go, just dial that number. So, yeah, there's that. So, what did you learn today, Greg?
What did I learn
Today,
I don't know.
He learned.
Like
how
I said, I
little-
don't reflect on anything. So
Greg learned how
all of
little
this is now in the past, erased from my memory.
all this will ever be is a social media post.
We could go back and look at it.
I really am only going to look back at this for the analytics.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's.
6 views.
Yep. All right. Let's do this. Let's pull a card from this deck. See what question we get for Greg. Of course. What's the main thing on your bucket list? You don't have a bucket list.
No.
Yeah, it's a bad question.
You know what's another thing that I don't have? Like favorites.
Butterflies in your stomach? You definitely don't have those.
You don't have. What do you mean, like in foods or movies?
Yeah,
or-
like all,
So is it
food, movies.
like you don't like anything?
I'm getting to that point. That's a general direction of like
your life is heading.
hating everybody and disliking everything.
So I think that is just a natural progression that happens as you get older. I mean, it's the New Balance effect, kind of. As you get older, you start getting into the New Balance type thing, and then you start hating everything.
The like shoes New Balance.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's possible. On the shoe topic, we might get some hate on this, but I'm gonna speak my mind on this.
Okay.
And I hope I don't offend anybody that's close to us, but Skechers, like that's a big no-go.
Dude, what if you...
Like if you walk in, you're wearing Skechers, like you're getting judged, like harder than a lot of like anything else.
You could have a lot of bad behavior, but if you're wearing Skechers, you're written off.
Yeah, like you're written off. Like I don't judge your
You don't value their opinions
I don't
or
value
their
your
thoughts.
opinions. I don't care.
Oh, that's a good...
Oh, dude. You got Reeboks on. You're good.
So what if you were to...
That would be
because
so awesome if you looked down and Matt was wearing Skechers. Matt just has his feet straight out. And he's like,
tucked away under the table.
Oh, I lost my shoes.
oh, what
So-
happened to them?
Dude, I kind of feel the same way about them, but there's been times where I'm like, oh, those look like they're cool shoes, and then I see the Skechers logo.
Oh,
Because Skechers does have some stylish, like, shaped
they're like
shoes.
rip-offs of other shoes.
Yeah,
I think.
exactly.
Yeah.
So what if you were just to take the label off of Skechers? Do you think that you'd be like, all right, those I could do those?
No.
Yeah, there's
Nah,
something.
I
There's
know-
something
there's
about
like
them
a
that you could.
DNA that's like embedded.
Yeah.
in-
What do you guys think it is about it?
It's like the clunky, chunky. It's like
Well, here's what it is that there's certain people that wear these shoes, right? And like you see that repeated over and over again. And now I'm not saying that 100% of people fall into this category,
98% of Skechers wearers.
but yeah, it's kind of like white trash in that, like, not Skechers aren't white trash. I'm saying, like, you can kind of look at somebody and be like, yeah, that's
That guy's white trash.
That
You know
guy's
what
white
their
trash.
personality is, probably.
Right. Like there's a certain look and an aura,
A feel.
Yeah, and so, I mean, people might hate me for this, and I might get trashed in the comments, but I felt like I had to put that.
So
out
what
there.
it's not that Skechers are white trash, but what is the end result of Skechers? You look at them and be like, the most exciting thing that you've done in 3 months is like rearrange your couch or something. Like you kind of just like well, I'm gonna sit on this side of the couch.
Yeah, it's
today.
like a culture type thing. It could be.
Is it a limiting beliefs thing? Do you think?
I don't know.
I think they're uninformed people.
It could be.
Because, dude,
Yeah.
do you remember when
Yeah.
Skechers came out? With
could be right.
the huge,
Yeah.
like, and you would walk, and they're supposed to make your calves bigger.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. Like, I don't
What?
think that would make your calves bigger just by standing up higher. So I feel like those
Maybe.
people would be like, oh, my calves are going to look
That's
big.
I don't think that's what turned me off of.
No, I think it was long before that, and then that might have just been a confirmation of the thing. Maybe it's Skechers as a company is like, maybe that it's in the company itself. Like maybe if you were to look at the people that run Skechers or that started
Yeah.
Skechers, you would look at them and go like, I don't like this person.
Pull it
Yeah.
up. I want to see. I want to see the face
Here,
of
Actually, yeah.
I want to add, like, as I'm thinking through this, I'll add like a little bit of a caveat in that there might be some older people that are rocking Skechers that, like, I look at it and I'm like, look at that logo. Like, that's not good.
Robert Greenberg.
So Like, look
Yeah,
at those
take a look at-
shoes. Jesus.
Oh, also real quick, this episode is sponsored by Skechers. So thanks, Skechers.
Like, look at those. Those are horrific.
This is like a classic
white ones.
Skechers right here. This is the example. You know what this is? This is like this is like a late 90s, early 2000s, like
Yeah.
maybe movie or TV show or something like that. Like that's what this is.
Yeah. So back to my thing, because I don't want, like, I'm trying to tiptoe around this a little bit. Is like, you know, for older people, at a certain point, older people don't care anymore what they're wearing.
Just so you know, I think this may be the founder.
See,
But this guy doesn't look like
stylish.
He doesn't look like
like that
Yeah.
guy's styling.
Yeah, he
And
is.
Now
He doesn't
he
look like-
probably is tapped into a market. Like, he knows the people, like the psyche
Mm-hmm.
that are gonna buy these shoes, and he's just capitalizing on it. And that's the beauty of the free market. Right?
It's so funny, dude. Now that you say this and I'm looking, they're all unsightly shaped.
yeah, like look at that. Like,
None of the shapes look good.
could you imagine, like, the people that design these things? So again, I'm going back. For older people that are wearing Skechers, like, at a certain point, older people do, like, just stop giving a fuck, like, what they're wearing, right?
Yeah.
And so at a certain point, it's like you walk into the store, like, you get a size 11, and, like, they give you the shoe and you put it on and you're just kind of like, whatever. And I actually see myself, like, kind of swinging into that zone. I'm not there, like, I'm pretty far off from, like,
so
slapping
what
on,
you're
like,
saying is what you're saying is you're about 4 years away from one of these hot items.
See,
right
like,
here.
for me personally, I think, like, I have enough style that, like, it
can carry you
It's
through.
gonna carry me through until I start, like, really losing it, and then, like, I'm like on a walker or something, right?
Yeah.
But for some people, they just don't care and they fall into the Skechers trap. But, like, if you're 24, like, you know, like, let's say
If you're under
let's say
50,
18 to, like, 40, and you're wearing Skechers, like,
there's something wrong.
there's something that you need to maybe, like, maybe take a look and reevaluate what's going on.
Yeah, like it could be like one of those situations where you like just barely wearing a school shooter, or like
Oh my god.
It could,
that's kind of the extreme, but it could be
Can
like
you
one of those
describe them
things.
to me?
It's could be like one of those things where it's like every time you have a conversation with that person, you run into them like over the course of 8 years, and every single time they're like telling you they're just about to start going back to college, like type thing. Like, I'm just about to start my associates.
Your guys' insights are on point. Greg, you're gonna see these 10 years from now on the front of a fly fishing magazine.
God, like,
You're gonna
Damn,
see
them shoes
you're
look
gonna see
good.
Greg on the cover of a fly fishing magazine in 10 years,
In those.
feet kicked up in these shoes right here.
like,
Women's shape ups.
That's the ones I'm
Shape
talking
ups,
about.
yeah.
Well, the only people that I give a caveat to with Skechers, the one group of people is people that work in industries where you have to have non-slip shoes. A lot of those people will wear like the black, like regular looking kind of Skechers, like
listen,
these.
I'm sorry,
these
you
kind of
got you have
Skechers.
options when it comes to shoes.
But look, like that, the goal with those is not to be stylish at all, and they do. And a lot of these like restaurants and stuff require
well,
things
guess
that
what?
have
You're not getting a tip. I'm just kidding. I always tip, regardless of shoe style. But who knows? Maybe it influenced
could
me.
be a 5%
Yeah,
difference.
it could be. Yeah, it could be. I always tip over 20%. So
You might just may get 20%.
you might get the 18.
Oh,
You
fuck.
might get the 18%, which is like, you know, those receipts
The
where it
charts
like
on the bottom?
recommends. Yeah, it usually like caps at 18. I don't know what the deal is with that.
Yeah.
Like at least go like
Give him a
give
Go
him
to
a 20,
30.
go to the
Yeah.
25, 30.
give him
I
a
mean,
fighting chance.
yeah.
I don't know what if I go somewhere and somebody like doesn't tip, or if they're stingy about the tip. I'm generally like,
Yeah.
I just disregard. They're like, oh, why would you do that? I'm just like, I just
that's-
disregard it. Like, and
That's-
I do
here,
I
and
do
I'm
look
gonna-
at people that don't tip in a similar way to the way I look at people with
I'll say
Skechers.
it's worse.
Yes, I agree.
If you don't take care of your bartenders or your waitresses or whatever, it's worse than wearing Skechers. I don't want to put the Skechers people in the same.
I think that's fair.
Same
I
bucket.
take back my statement. I agree that the low tippers or non-tippers are in a category.
Yeah, I mean,
below.
and just like if somebody is there's a difference between like kind of like bad service, or it's a little slow, or like they got something wrong, and like people being like nasty, which doesn't I don't really typically come across that. But there's a difference in like,
Yes.
hey, this person was like really bad to us and was like nasty. I mean, I think at that point you do have the right to withdraw the tip. I don't know that I've done that ever, but just in theory,
You can
that makes sense.
you can see it there.
You guys ever worked in a restaurant? Like as a
I
waiter?
sure have.
Well, then you would know that most people that don't tip typically wear those types of shoes.
Really?
I would feel like, yeah, they
Oh wow,
probably would. I just see some guy
could be right. And
mid-50s.
this is like the intersection of
The non-tipper
people-
and the style.
Yeah.
which is that's a force to be reckoned with.
mid-50s, those shoes, like jeans that are a little too light.
Yeah.
Nope.
I
Low
just
to no
asked
tip.
for fucking mozzarella sticks, and that's all I wanted, and this fucking idiot couldn't give me mozzarella sticks.
And the laces are always a little too long and tied too many times.
Oh, with a dangling loop. If you got a dangling loop shoelace
sweeping
on
the floor.
on your Skechers, you probably aren't tipping, or you're looking for reasons to not tip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, like people, it's not any like type of person. Like, there's no class of person that doesn't tip well. Like, if you have no money and you like give what you can, that's better than somebody who's like super wealthy. Like, I've met people that are like stingy about that shit. Or when you meet somebody that's like that has money and treats like waiters or like service people
It's
like
usually the
shit.
same people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've talked about that before. Muhammad Ali has that saying. I think it was him, and he's like, "You should never trust anybody that treats a waitress or waiter bad, because
no.
if I was in their spot, you would treat me the same way."
No,
That's-
I've only been in that situation maybe like
Handful of times.
handful of times, 10 times, but man, that's cringy. There's nothing worse than that.
Oh my god.
It's terrible, dude, being with people like at the table, and then
Yeah.
you're with somebody that you
Don't
might not
know, or
and they're like digging into it, and you're just
Yeah.
like, dude, I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
no,
that's something that I really lose respect for. Like, if you have Skechers on, like you kind of float in that zone where I'm like, I'm waiting for you to say something so I can judge if everything else that you say is going to
Right.
be of no value. But like, if you treat like a waitress like shit or something, like, I actively don't like you.
Yes.
Like, I have actively written you off. Like, you're fucking done. Like,
Yeah.
those are the people that I talk behind their back. Like, I don't talk behind most people's back. Like, if you treat people like shit, I'm like,
Can't believe you did that.
yeah, fuck that guy.
Well, so like, who's gonna challenge these people? Is that like whose job is that?
That's our job as citizens, and that's what the Second Amendment.
Well, maybe
was
I
for.
guess that's what the point of this podcast is to shed light on these types of topics and
And these kinds of people.
hopefully educate these people on doing the right thing.
Yeah.
See, the only problem is that the people that would treat waitresses and waiters like shit won't listen to this podcast because they don't know how to say the title of the podcast. So
right. But if we chop this into a clip and then distribute it in a way, maybe in a promoted advertisement, we could reach a lot more people.
that's true. What if we did actually spend money just to put out an ad that was basically like, hey, if you don't tip, you're a piece of shit. We just wanted you to come across that on, or if you treat waitresses like shit, then
I've
you
spent
are a piece
more money on less important things.
You're right. So
I'll put $100.
yeah, I was gonna say I'll throw in 100.
Yeah.
We'll take a snippet of it.
Now, what area of the country do we want to target using LinkedIn advertising?
I think we should probably target this area and then see if we can go a layer deeper and target people whose previous positions was in the Northeast. So that way we can get the message to the people that are moving down to Florida, not to fuck this up like you ruin the whole fucking Northeast.
Yeah, we could retarget ads for people that did searches like for RSW or like Fort Myers or Naples hotels, and we could retarget ads to those people in the Midwest and Northeast.
Yeah, and then probably if we do it well enough, we can go to some of the different hotels in the area and get some support from them.
Yeah.
Different restaurants and things like that to promote this message.
Different types of etiquette and stuff.
This podcast alone will
And maybe you
bring
could
down
put together a
Skechers.
master class on
Etiquette.
not wearing those shoes.
Dude, what kind of activity do you think this one up in the upper left hand corner? What kind of activity would you need a Velcro strap plus laces?
I mean,
Like, I'm laced
listen,
up,
those
Mom.
are not the only shoes.
Oh,
like
they're-
Air Force
kidding.
Ones had the high tops had straps on them, right?
That's
I've
true.
never seen them actually strapped, dude. If you strap them, then
Oh,
that
yeah,
wasn't
that-
cool.
that is
that was
true.
hung off.
I don't know those like
I want to know what the use case is for these no limit slips.
those are
This is for
those are strictly like dog walking shoes.
Yeah, this is laundry, and then I'm gonna slip these on. Go walk
Does
the
mom
dog.
have a pair of those? Like I'm now concerned that my own mother has these shoes.
She might have a pair of these shoes.
Yikes.
How about those fades in the middle there?
Where are we looking here?
Those,
This?
no, to the left. Yeah.
This?
Like, look at those bad boys.
Yeah, those are nice.
Oh, that didn't do anything. Ooh, this picture looks like it was taken like on the shelf of a bathtub.
Someone thought that their cool shoes looked so cool that they took a picture of them.
And
put 'em
someone
on-
was so stupid that they found a picture of these and put them on their podcast.
Yes.
And now, like, this is like page 1 of Google search results.
Yeah.
So, like,
I'm actually using the Brave browser right now.
What is
oh, okay.
I'm trying it out. So, like, I usually use.
So this is
pretty-
totally different. This isn't Chrome.
No, I usually use Chrome. Chrome I pretty much use for everything,
Yeah.
but I listen to the Joe Rogan episode with this guy that talks about like the amount of shit that Google like.
I started using the DuckDuckGo on my phone and stuff.
I started using that, and I think that's more just like a mask of what you search for. This is like a totally separate browser because like DuckDuckGo, I think they just use Google. I think they just kind of help you not get tracked by it. This is like almost its own thing. Like it doesn't use Google's
Gotcha.
like databases or something. I don't know. I figured I'd try it out. I don't know. It's fine. It's like a web browser.
Yeah. All right.
Very cool.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm really glad I livened up the conversation with that piece.
Actually, now that you say that, I would be a little curious to see if you were to type in Skechers Shoes Finder on Google, what kind of information we would.
The only
or wouldn't
problem
get.
is that I don't want to necessarily attract.
Skechers.
Oh yeah, now you're gonna get Skechers ads all over Instagram
yes.
and everything.
Skechers.
Let's see how
You didn't even
similar-
spell it right.
Yeah, and you didn't put the same thing in. I wanted to see like if put it in the exact same
No,
search.
there's no T.
Oh, I didn't have a T.
You did have a T in
No,
there.
I had no
it
T.
corrected it.
Oh.
Only
Well,
someone.
See, this is a different set of
Yeah,
results. here.
My wife has those shoes to the left of the blue ones. Those. She wears them to work.
Oh, shit.
I know. Sorry, Jen.
Oh, man. We're in trouble.
Oh no.
But, like, okay.
This is kind of this is like a Roth. This is
No.
like a Rothy's knockoff.
this-
Don't back it up now. She needs to have it. She's getting what's coming.
Jen, you look like a fucking idiot. I'm
See,
sorry.
No, these aren't Skechers. This is. Oh, no, it is. It is.
Oh no, it is.
Uh-oh, Skechers wants to know my
Okay,
location.
So, just.
Look, this
There's
looks
no
like
S on the side.
this looks like
To me, if I
Rothy's.
saw those, I wouldn't recognize them, so they're not Skechers.
Okay.
They don't fall into that category.
I'd probably agree
Look.
with you.
These kind of look like these Rothy's.
Yeah.
Look at this.
Those are cute.
Boom.
Yeah.
Boom. That's
Cool. And those are on Vox, which I think is like a fashion thing, so they must be cool.
I think Vox is like I think they're like one of those like hardcore liberal
Oh, okay.
things.
Yeah.
Pretty-
so like wear these shoes but don't support capitalism
Yeah.
in any way.
But we're using capitalism to
Yeah, exactly.
promote
To fund
and
everything.
Yeah, we optimize all of our searches for literally the biggest company in the whole world,
Yeah.
so more people can find this. I don't know. It's kind of annoying to try to like learn anything now because everything is like biased. Like anytime I look up something that happened in the world, I just look at the first like 5 or 6 articles and I go, I probably can't believe anything that's in these, so I just kind of scroll.
Just
Past them.
like everything has to have like some sort of like political agenda.
Yo, even
or like and like I get some of these things, but like they're trying to tie everything to this. For example, like this was random. There was an article about the in the Everglades National Park. They have this old shit. It's an old rundown facility for the workers because a lot of the people that work for the park actually live in the park, right? So they have these
okay.
old facilities, and so like it's in the middle of the park, and like in the description, it's like, hey, we're looking to rebuild these to, obviously because they're old, they're crappy, they're bad conditions. And it's like the last thing was like, and because of climate change. And it's like what
the fuck does this have to do with
What are we
anything?
talking about here? Like, what is that? Like, what's the connection?
I think it's one of those like extra sales pieces that it's like, well, if you also don't care about us, you got to think about the climate.
Yeah,
Well,
and I'm not saying I'm not saying anything about climate change. Like I'm not.
it's
trying to
literally
get
one
into
of
that
it's
discussion.
like
but
it has nothing to do with anything.
Right.
So why is this here?
exactly.
Well, it's an easy way to manipulate people into doing what you want them to. 'Cause
Oh, yeah.
If they say, "Oh, well, I'm not going to donate to that," we're like, "Oh, well, then you don't care about climate change."
Exactly.
It's like, no, that's not it.
Well, I think like the political stuff has been odd and kind of like political and fashion, like these two things together. I texted you like tropical fedora hat.
Yeah, what was that about?
So I was at the Kava bar and I'm sitting there. I'm just like paying, and there's like a guy next to me that's like, "Oh, I don't go to seat to table. I haven't been there since before the pandemic." And like they're like, "Oh, why?" He's like, "Oh, because Alfie Oates is a racist. Like, I wouldn't go to there." I had some girl that wanted to go on a date with me to there, and I said, "Yeah, you could have fun inside. I'm gonna sit in the car." And I was like, "What the fuck?" And I look over, and he's like maybe in his like 40s or 50s, and he's wearing like kind of like one of those like big like bowling type shirts, and he has like one of those like tropical kind of fedora hats on. You just look at him like, oh, this guy's like literally probably never achieved anything in his whole life, and he's like dressed like a fucking idiot. And then he's like, yeah, that guy's like fucking racist. And then this other guy, I think he might have been Indian or something, and he was like, I don't think that guy's racist. He's like, why do you think he's racist? And he's like, it's just all like Trump stuff and like really likes Trump. And he's like, I guess. He's like, I don't know, like how's he racist? And he's like, you'll see. Like,
Didn't have an answer.
He didn't have a fucking answer. And it's like, dude, that guy literally employs like, I don't know,
thousands of people.
at least 1,000 people. A lot. I bet he employs more migrant workers and probably illegal immigrants than most companies out there.
We're not saying that.
This is alleged, but like
Allegedly.
But they do have a lot of people that work in the fields out in Immokalee. And then I knew somebody that worked at Oaks Farms, and like I think all of the people that work for them can go to any of their stores and get their produce for like super cheap. So you have like all these migrant families that aren't making a ton of money. They can like buy things that they can afford. He's employing like at least a couple hundred people at that fucking store down there. There's people of all races and like ethnicities, everything. Yeah. It's like this stupid shit that somebody just comes in and they're like, that guy's fucking racist.
They just paint the picture of like the guy has built a business. He employs all types of people and comes out and says like, hey, we don't want you shutting down our state and our business because it's going to leave, tons of people unemployed. It's going to ruin the community. And because he says that, all of a sudden he's connected with all of these things that have no
connection at all.
There's no evidence of anything. And that's,
except for literally some guy going like, just wait, you'll see.
Yeah.
That's the best argument
you'll
you
see.
got.
What are you going to see? Like it's crazy that, and that's what's like really awful about today is like you get painted in, you're either like a raging liberal or you're like a Nazi, conservative.
Yeah.
And the media paints you whatever picture they want to fit their narrative where it's just not.
Well, that's why like I don't like when you pull up like a Vox or like a Buzzsprout or like The Guardian or like any of these things, like you go to find out information. It's like you're literally just getting somebody's opinion, and the person that wrote the article is probably like 25 and doesn't know anything about anything.
They're a freelance writer. They're just writing stuff.
And they're just writing, and then they have some editor who is maybe 35 and is like super liberal or thinks that the owners of the company are liberal, so that's what they want to see. It's like, all right, great. So now I have to go through my whole fucking life not knowing about like any truth unless I go dig through a bunch of like original sources. I don't give that much of a fuck about most of the things that you like kind of pass by and see.
Yeah, well,
you're just getting it with a spin, and now I have to go, well, something happened, but I don't know what happened because I don't trust this. Like,
I think, but what you're starting to see is like it's become so vividly clear, like what people are saying and what they're doing, that they're just starting to get ignored.
Yeah,
and it's like it's all driven based off of money, right? And so once all these sites and stuff lose their appeal and lose their audience because everything they put out is completely worthless.
Bullshit. Yeah.
We'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah. It's like where the new idea is at. Because and I don't want to keep going back to like the news and stuff, but if you turn on Fox News, you know what everything they're going to talk about is going to, you know what the agenda is. You turn on CNN, you know what the agenda is going to be. It's like you said, you go to Buzzsprout, you go to NPR, you got all these things. Like, I know what their opinion is going to be on all these topics. Yeah. You just stop clicking on stuff because I already know the answers.
Yeah, exactly. So at least now it's kind of like, that if you read something, you can go like, an event happened, but what they said, the way they interpret it is not true, but I know an event happened. Like, I know the January 6th thing happened. I know that was not as bad as Pearl Harbor. I'm pretty sure at Pearl Harbor...
Was it, though?
tens, like not 10, well, maybe in total close to 10,000 if you include the Japanese pilots, but
Is that how many people died?
I think it was like 3,000 or 4,000.
Yeah, it was in between 3,000 and 4,000.
It was it was similar to 9/11.
Americans.
Yeah, Americans.
Yeah.
But if you add Japanese,
Yeah.
it could be maybe 4,000 or 5,000. But like, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, like those guys going into the Capitol and like, kind of like holding up podiums and stuff, like that kind of is as bad as somebody flying a plane into the side.
Where did you go with this, dude?
A shit. Like, no, if you really think about it, like, stop and think about it. Like, they went in. One guy had zip ties, dude. If you take a zip tie, like you could tie somebody up, you can like kill them. But like that's way scarier to me than like a
kamikaze
fleet of like planes like coming down like kind of out of nowhere and like flying into you and like blowing you up, because that's like physical, right? Because that's all that it is. And it's like what, a couple pieces of tin and like a couple guys that like have like some jobs or something. But like this was like people that really like fundamentally attacked like our way of life, you know, like, and if you look at it, like that's how I feel like. So like I guess they're kind of the same basic, and it's almost like 9/11 is pretty much the same. Like if you were to like like I bet somebody like taught these guys like how to like pick up a podium, like they went to like podium school, you know, and they like didn't even pass. And so like that's kind of similar to like somebody learning how to fly a plane. Like if you were to like crash a plane into the middle of the Twin Towers and like knock them down, it's like almost the same as like going into a building while you're like upset.
What?
Do you not understand like the severity of this?
Did you see?
What's crazy is that actually you could go up on stage in front of like
Real people.
the whole entire
yeah,
country and actually say something like that.
And also happen to be the vice president and having said that?
And a lot of people would agree with you.
Yeah.
Like they were unarmed.
They had zip ties, you fucking idiot.
I'm not saying, yeah, whatever. I'm not going to get into it.
No, it's stupid. It's like, it's just
the level of stupidity that is like spewed on a daily basis is just like, I don't know how it's possible that you could actually say some of these things. Like it's beyond. It's beyond.
And people are just letting it happen.
Yeah, and so I think that's where all this ends up going is like the people have the ability to put a stop to it once they've had enough, and we'll see how long that takes. But it's getting like borderline ridiculous on what's going on right now.
But you know, and you bring up a good point though, because there's like this thing with Spotify and Neil Young and Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Do you know the whole like ins and outs of it? Like Neil Young hates Joe Rogan, so he's like, I'm gonna take my music off of Spotify. And I'm
Neil Young hates Joe Rogan.
He said that Joe Rogan is spreading like anti-vax propaganda. It's misleading, it's lies, whatever. And he said, you know, you either take Joe Rogan off Spotify or I'm taking my music off Spotify.
And then Spotify goes, Neil, you're going to die way before Joe Rogan and you're not going to make us as much money.
That's exactly what they did.
Yeah.
Good. Dude, I really like Neil Young songs, but
here's
Neil Young, you fucked up.
Yeah, but here's the thing,
You're an
though.
idiot.
So he wanted to censor Joe Rogan. They're like, we're not censoring. But then they just censored Neil Young.
No,
right?
I believe, no, it's not that they took his stuff off. He wanted his stuff off.
Oh, I thought
like he pulled it off because he doesn't want to be associated with
so they just
which is
took a
perfectly
side.
fine. You
Yeah.
do whatever the hell you want.
That's
but
acceptable. You
enough
can
of
do
the-
dumb shit
Yeah.
if you want to. Like, I bet Neil Young you know what probably happened? Neil Young probably recently purchased a pair of Skechers and he tied them just a little too tight, and this is what happened. His feet started hurting. His voice maybe went down a couple pitches after he put on those Skechers.
Dude, that's like Neil Young's like MO though.
Does he just
like,
hate everybody?
like I think at Woodstock, I like Neil Young.
Dude,
Nothing
I
against
really
Neil Young.
like Neil Young. This fucking that sucks.
Yeah, I mean, being raised, that's big Neil Young fan. But he, what was I really going with this?
You said he's done this before, Woodstock.
Oh yeah, like he showed up there and I think it was Woodstock or around that time, and he didn't want to play on stage because they were like videotaping. So he threw a big fit and he like sat in the back of the stage so the cameras couldn't see him. So this is like, it's probably not a surprise for a lot of people.
Yeah. Be honest, that's pretty lame.
Yeah,
but
yeah, imagine
100%. Yeah,
imagine missing out on being a part of Woodstock because it was being filmed. Like,
I didn't know there's gonna be cameras. I'm gonna go sit in the back. I might be totally wrong with that, but I think I'm right.
well, I mean, based on
Where's my damn Skechers? Take my shit off of Spotify.
Maybe Neil Young didn't want to be on camera because he was wearing Skechers at Woodstock.
No one told me I wore my Skechers today.
imagine what the first pair of Skechers looked like.
Just Google it.
All right, let's see.
First pair of Skechers of all time.
Ever.
20 things you didn't know about Skechers.
Oh my god! Do you see that YouTube?
This?
I love these
Skech-
shoes.
Oh my god! I love these shoes.
I'm kind of interested to see. Yum Yucky loves these shoes.
Yeah, I wouldn't click on that.
Oh, this is the look, dude,
Yes.
right there.
I was about
Quick
to say.
question. Are Skechers officially cool again? Fashionista magazine. The answer is yes.
No.
No, they are not.
Greg just debunked that.
But you know what? Like, you could go and buy, what are they, like Balenciagas? They look almost exactly like that. They obviously don't have the S on there, and they're probably like $5,000 sneakers.
Balenciaga versus Skechers. Let's see this.
Like, look at that. That is horrific.
This is a Balenciaga?
Yeah. Like 1,000. Yeah, one.
I mean, dude, that's the world we live in. Hey, I created this absolute mess of a shoe. How much do you think the shoe's worth? $50? No. Not even close.
Dude,
Like,
Charge them $2,000
look,
for this
look
thing.
at that. Yeah.
this is hot. Dude,
$1,100.
Dude, these are a disgusting pair of Asics shoes.
Yeah.
This is literally the Asics like
Look.
thing. Oh, but it does say runner on the side. So if you do have a pair if you do have a pair of high socks and you have your parents' credit card, this is the fucking thing. This is for somebody that moved to Brooklyn like
I don't know if Balenciagas are a Brooklyn thing. I think they're more like an LA type thing.
let me revise this statement. These are something that, yeah, I could see this being more in LA. This is like you moved to LA. Your move to LA was funded by your parents or your grandparents. In case your grandparents were wealthy and your parents were fuck ups, your grandparents paid for these. You have high socks. And
what are all those holes up
maybe-
at the top that go all the way around? You gonna tie your ankle all the way into
Yeah.
it?
You could probably put charms in those.
Oh,
Charm.
You might be able to put
Oh,
some
look
charms.
at that power meter up in the back.
Yeah, that's how you know. That's how like you know whether or not you're socially conscious enough. So if you're saying the right things, it turns green, and then if it detects any
Yeah. We'd
any,
be in the
any
red zone.
racism,
dude,
Yeah,
that
these are
is a
hot.
disgusting shoe.
dude, this is the future. I think. Look at that. That's hot. You can throw some charms in there. These things look like you'd have some dangly fucking shoelaces.
Dude, you know what? Like this stuff that like some people come out like you see those Kanye West the slides, the Yeezy slides. I don't think they look that cool, but he makes a killing off these. I feel like I could give like a little kid a pen and paper and say,
look at those.
This
Yeah.
one, this Adidas
I think
Yeezy
these are
runner.
somewhat inspired by the
"Space."
Balenciagas.
See, like with something like this, right? Here's how I could wrap my head around something like this. Kanye West is out of his fucking mind, but like he is smart. He does pull things off that other people cannot pull off. So if you've got a shoe that's like this, I don't know who the fuck thought like of this shoe, where this came from, if this is like part of the Halo release or something like that. But like there's something to this that's unique. At least, like I've never really seen anything like this. If you look at this. This looks like a dirty Asics. This looks like somebody went and like rubbed these around in dirt before they sold them. This looks like shit. This at least looks like something that like you could say, "Oh, I'm different."
Dude, these look like if you go into like a cryotherapy chamber and they freeze you on a 1,000-year trip to whatever planet, you would wake up in these shoes.
Yeah.
When you got to that new planet.
You know what is oats?
But here's what I'm saying.
It's kind of like the Matrix. Like, I don't know. It seems like, if you like woke up in that pod and
exactly.
ripped all the all the stuff out of you, that's what you'd slide on on your way out of that pod.
Well, that's the thing, dude. I feel like if you gave like a little kid here's how you make something great, like let's say a fashion or something. Give a kid a piece of paper and say, "Hey, scribble down the coolest pair of shoes you can think of," and it would probably look something like one of those.
Yeah.
Those shoes kind of look like this alien from this show on. Oh, what the fuck?
Is that Godzilla?
I mean, I think
this shoe it kind of looks like this a little bit. Like if you look at this shoe, it does look like it could be like an alien of some sort.
I feel like my first instinct on that shoe is that it kind of looks like a Ferrari or like a Lamborghini, like for your foot.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of
the shape.
Yeah, like the shape of it. It kind of looks like a sports car, like a modern sports car for your foot.
All right, let's take a look at this.
Maybe look up like
Bugatti or something.
Yeah, Bugatti or like a Lotus. You know,
it's got those more round kind of shapes.
Let's see, Bugatti. Yeah, like
I don't
this.
know.
Like
maybe I'm a little.
I think this.
Maybe I'm slightly off, but that
looks like
that's
kind of 1937 Bugatti actually.
Yeah,
Where
it's
is
like
this?
it's kind of like fast for your feet.
Okay. All right. I can kind of see what you're saying. Like you've got this.
If you have those shoes though, like you're definitely buying NFTs. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong, and I may have to purchase a pair of those shoes now.
And you probably have NFTs in your Instagram profile.
You might have an NFT like tattooed somewhere on your body, like someone we may have had on the show recently.
What do they have, like the Bored Ape or
somebody
something?
has a tattoo of a?
No, it's not of an NFT. I think it's the Pop-Tart guy, but something along those lines that would be associated to an NFT.
Yeah,
you might have these shoes.
Yeah, like
these shoes.
These shoes
for sure.
Dude, you guys have crazy insights on shoes. Everything you guys have said about the type of people that are wearing these have been very accurate.
Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of like I observe things and then I don't retain anything until you kind of bring up a conversation like this, and then the ideas
don't
just
look at
flow.
my shoes. Don't worry about what I'm rocking.
I have ons.
Honestly, you have the ugliest shoes on out of all three of us.
I do. They are ugly shoes. They are.
Those aren't good.
No, but I've accepted them. These are the future New Balances. I'm telling you, dude. The ons are going to be the New Balances in 20 years.
You're probably right. Yeah.
The ons are blowing up right now.
There's
there's
a ton of people that wear them.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. Doesn't mean that they look any better.
Do they have the power to last?
I've had these shoes. I've had these shoes for about 15 months, and they.
I'm not talking about the. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm
talking
about the brand,
quality,
and the company. I'm not talking about the quality. That doesn't matter.
It does come with. That's why New Balances have been around, because they're they have the support.
They
and
got
all
the
stuff.
like it takes a lot to get.
You could throw a beating on some New Balances.
Shoes. Now, I'm sure they could build a nice little business. Are they going to take over Nike or New Balance? Or...
They just opened a new Skechers.
Well,
really? They keep popping up everywhere.
That tells you a lot about the demographics of what this area is becoming.
It's over on Fowler Street, right off of Fowler. They're on 41.
Oh, that's an interesting place. For
Yeah.
that.
I wouldn't think
By
that they're.
by that mall, by the Best Buy and stuff. It's in that complex. I said, "Holy shit!"
Oh,
Skechers?
okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know where the Best Buy is.
Oh, by over by Page Field.
Yeah. Right where Fowler turns into where intersects 41 there.
Okay, I mean, I don't know.
All
That
right.
it doesn't tell you much. There's like a party city.
No,
in there
I
too.
think. So I learned a little bit. Like,
What's in the party cities?
balloons. There's like costumes and things like that.
I learned a little bit about, I was talking to this guy who he's really in like the restaurant industry around this area. And I was like, what is the deal with all of these chain restaurants? Like this area is dominated by chain restaurants, really tough for like, local, like, different type of restaurants to succeed. And he's like, I'll tell you what, it's like about the people especially in the Fort Myers area. Like down in Naples, it's a little bit different. And there's a lot of like one-off, like successful restaurants. And he said that the Bell Tower Outback Steakhouse is like it's the top performing Outback in the whole country.
Really?
Yeah, like he said, like it blows everything out of the water. And it's like, you look at the type of people and I'm not a knock on anybody who likes Outback. I like Outback, but like that's a specific type of person that likes, loves Outback. And I think that's like the best steak that you can get.
Dude,
I'm going to catch a lot of heat from all different types of people from this podcast, but
you've pretty much explained the same person.
Yeah, I was connecting it back to the Sketcher wearing.
Oh yeah,
low
dude.
tipping,
You're right. I think
Outback
going people.
you guys know that it's like a bloomin' onion. They kind of like take the whole thing and they dip it. Like the whole thing's fried. It's really, and they got this ranch sauce. It's pretty good.
Yeah. I'd also like to give out a shout out to Middle Class Fancy on Instagram. That's probably the best Instagram page out.
Really?
You guys don't know Middle Class Fancy?
No, let's. I've heard the name, but let's see.
Oh man,
Let's see what we're working
like
with. Middle Class Fancy.
To connect with just middle class family people. Like the best memes out.
No.
By far. Yeah.
This is so coming back to full circle with our talk about imposter syndrome and not feeling like you can deliver the product and you're worried about it. It's this very thing is me worried about, okay, let me hire you so I can do my podcast and then producing something along the lines of this. I don't know what the equivalent would be. Is like basically you get your audio back and it's just like you have you either have a robot accent or an Indian. In this case, you have an Indian and a robot accent. Welcome to the let me tell you about my company. Like, look at this fucking thing. That's terrible.
That's pretty funny.
What else do we got?
Dude, what?
Like, it's tough to, like, looking at it here. I don't know that we're gonna get the.
Hold on, go to the
right
Biden one right there. Me to myself. You stupid son of a bitch.
You stupid son of a bitch. Yeah. Like, that's a good one.
Literally every car ever. JD Power customer satisfaction or JD Power.
Like, this is just the most relatable. Yeah. Yeah.
What is this?
What do you mean you don't like?
Yeah.
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 Lord have mercy, I'm about to bust. Lord have mercy, I'm about to bust.
So
Anyway,
let's get one last one. IPA makers in the brewery like, yeah, this is the worst beer I've ever tasted.
this is so true.
This is true. Honestly, like for me, IPAs are some of the most disgusting beers. People fucking go nuts for IPAs, and I think those people are fucking idiots.
Yeah, the sour beers.
There's
I
people
don't
that
get those
there's some
either.
people that have a real palate for this stuff, and you can kind of tell if they're legit because they seem to understand. But when somebody just tells me like, I love IPAs, like, what do you like? Like, you like just like not enjoying any of the flavors in your mouth and like having a stuffy nose for 2 days? Like, is that what you enjoy?
And bloating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I had there was a couple that were pretty decent. It was at Fort Myers Brewery. Like, this was years ago. I had like 5 IPAs, and oh my god, the headache that I like witnessed that evening was like, my head felt like it was gonna like crack in half. That's how bad it was.
Yeah.
What do you think that is that does that in there? Just is it they're really hoppy?
It's the
Rice or something, or
I think it's the hops and like
It's
it's
like
the
the wheat.
nitrates or something. That might be something different. I don't know. But anyway, I haven't had an IPA in years. I don't plan on probably ever having one ever again.
I might never have an IPA again in my whole life.
yeah,
I like lagers. I've come around to those. Vienna lagers are nice. They're a nice smooth. They're a good winter kind of beer. That's what winter lager is. It's
Okay.
nice. I like it.
All right.
Get a nice saison.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you go to Asheville, they have some like good breweries and stuff. You can get some interesting shit. You go to the Wicked Weed Brewery. They've got some good beers and they got some good food. So
Asheville.
yeah,
Yeah, I had a peanut butter and jelly beer there.
yeah, like a stout kind of.
Yeah, that was actually good.
So that's pretty good.
It tasted
I like,
exactly like a peanut butter jelly
I
sandwich.
like a nice stout.
So, all right. Well, what do you guys think? Should we wrap this thing up?
I think so. My ears are about 3,000 degrees right
Yeah,
now.
I gotta get.
These are hot.
I gotta get some more of these for everybody.
Yeah.
They have like, they got a little opening in them. And
Yeah.
AC.
AC unit and stuff.
Yeah, a little AC unit installed. So, Greg, do you have anything else that you would like to share with the audience?
No.
Matt literally did the same thing on the last podcast. I was like, "Do you guys have any projects that you'd like to share?" And Matt just goes,
No. Sorry. No.
"Nope."
No.
All right. Well, thank you for listening, everybody. Have a good night.
Adios.